Good evening, students of Composition 3. I want to start out by apologizing for uploading this lecture a little bit late. There are many reasons. I have a lot of excuses, but I'm not going to bore you with them. But I would like to say that some of the things that we planned on doing and the schedule that I set up have not gone perfectly so far, so I'm juggling things as best as I can. So please, it'll go smoother. As the days and weeks and lectures go by, the kinks will be worked out and everything will be more comfortable. Some students have emailed me being concerned that they're missing things or that they can't access the lecture because it's not there or something. Just if it's not there when it's supposed to be, like this morning at 10 o'clock, that's not your fault, and it's fine for you to email me and let me know, because it could be, the fact could be that I have made a mistake in the coding of my website, or it's a broken link, or another thing. There might be a good reason for it, so feel free to send me an email. If I don't answer you right away, don't panic. It's just because I've got too many things on my plate, okay? So I want to reassure you, especially this class, it's Composition 3. You're not freshmen. I know some of you, and you know me. I'm not going to blame you for things that are my mistakes. So some of you who have emailed me just wondering, that's fine, but don't panic. Don't feel like I'm going to punish you for not doing something that is my fault. That's not going to happen. Okay, so this is how it's going right now. Today, this is our first real recorded lecture. So it's a little bit late. That's mostly due to my large British and American culture class where they don't have textbooks, and I'm trying to split their class for Zoom purposes and other things. That has nothing to do with you, but that affected my timetable for you. So if anybody's going to have a delayed lecture during the week, it's you. And I want it to be you, because you are my oldest group of students, most mature, and I think you can handle it with less stress. So thank you for your patience and thank you for your emails. But to settle down, things are going to proceed better from now on. So next Friday morning, we are going to have a Zoom lecture. And this is a good idea, I think, because I haven't given you any homework. There is no assignment due yet. You just have to keep up with the cyber lectures, which there's one from last week and this week. So you have to get credit for 2. Next week there is not one. So all you have to do is Friday morning at 10 a.m. you need to join my Zoom meeting. The way I'm going to invite you is by sending it through your email that you have uploaded to the CNU portal. So when you get the ID and the password through your email, all you have to do is click on the link or punch in the ID and password, and you will join our class next Friday at 10 a.m. I'm also sending it by SMS. Hopefully either your phone number or your email is correct. In the case that you don't get a Zoom invitation from either your phone or your email, that means that your phone number or your email is incorrect or out of date, and you should email me at sullivanhbs@gmail.com and let me know so I can send you the information. Okay? Then you can pose questions the way you have been on email, and we can make sure that everybody's on the same page and the expectations are clear, and we can have a nice little real-time live lecture, camera to camera, person to person. Right now it's just me and my camera, and I actually would like to see you on my screen. So that's what we're doing next Friday. Now for today, the lecture is likely to be a little bit light because, as I tried to explain earlier, I think composition is good. It's well suited to this recorded lecture thing, but often the instructions for homework and assignments need to be explained and they have to be discussed, I guess is the best word. Even though I think that I've written the instructions clearly, step by step, I have students still not understanding exactly what I want. And that's the reason why we're having the Zoom lecture next week, is because next week I will be giving you assignments, and you will be able to hear my voice and ask questions right away before you start, rather than getting a grade back which you're dissatisfied with because you feel like the instructions were not clear. So I've already done this for one semester. Sometimes people feel like something I've said in the video lecture doesn't quite match what's on the website. In that case, the website takes precedence, okay? I'm going to present the material here, but there are occasions where in the video lecture I say the wrong date or I make a mistake. But that can be corrected on the website. But I'm not going to, this is a lecture that I do without stopping. I don't usually do more than one take. This is take one. So if I mess something up, I'm going to put it in the comments below the YouTube video in my channel, and I'll put it on the website too, okay? So occasionally there will be corrections to something I say in the lecture. It might be something that I say wrong about an assignment or something I want you to do, or I change my mind. But it might be something simple like I was mistaken about something I referenced, and it turned out, and this is embarrassing for any professor, especially a professor who publishes their lectures on the internet, but it happens. Experts can be wrong. And I consider myself an expert, and I have been wrong too. And I think it's I think it's the duty of an expert or a professor, an educator, when they are educating their students to encourage them to be critical and to notice when things might not be correct, and for the professor to take responsibility for mistakes and then correct them so the students get the correct information. So I will be doing that throughout the term. Yes, the Zoom lecture will be a great opportunity for you to grill me about certain things, or to get more detailed instructions if you feel that I haven't explained something well enough. So let's get started on Composition 3 material, right? Behind here, I have just a few main points. I'll get to the board in a minute, and if you can't see it very well on your phone, that's because your phone is tiny, it has a tiny screen. So you might have to pull this up on your laptop or your tablet or something else. I'm thinking about just making a file of, I think, I didn't do this last semester, but I think this is a good idea. So some people have better or worse internet connections or smaller screens. So I'm going to, this semester, just take a little snapshot of this or something and put it on the website as a link just below the video lecture, so you can also see my screen. On Zoom, you would just pull it up on the screen and you could save it or whatever. But I kind of like the old-fashioned whiteboard and marker technique. That's what I've been doing my whole life. So, but I'll so if you can't see it clearly, don't worry about it. I will give another higher resolution, larger version of it for you to see on the website too. So you can open up the YouTube, listen to me, and then print off the screenshot of that or the doc file, and you can follow along, okay? So don't be too concerned if it's too small. Focus on my voice, and again, the subtitles might help you follow, because I know some students, even though some students, I'm impressed by your level of English, frequently, I hear people apologizing for their level of English. So if you can't follow everything I say, then the subtitles will help. And when I upload this file for you to read to, I think that will help you follow what I'm trying to say too. So I'll try and do that as much as possible. The video lecture should be have sort of a summary or some main points reflected on the website, so that can guide you through what I say here. Okay? Just like, and of course, I do recommend you, this is a composition class. I am going to go off on tangents and tell stories sometimes because that's more entertaining than just saying this is how you write and this is what you do and this part goes here and this is the style that you should do and these are the rules and this is how the logic works. That starts to get boring after a while. And so there is going to be personal information or examples worked into the lecture. So you should have a notebook like a good student does in class. And when I'm talking about a story, just listen to the story and hopefully it'll illustrate a point or it'll entertain you or it'll make you think about something that you can use in your own writing or it'll add to your own experience, whatever the anecdote is supposed to do. But when I make points about, well, this will be on the exam or this is a very important skill, you make sure you write it down because you don't actually have to write everything down that I say. You just have to get the most important points and the rest of the things I say are to help you understand those major points. That's what a university lecture is. I shouldn't have to tell this to these upper year students, but it's always good to remind people when you're not in the classroom and the professor's not looking at you, that you should still keep your good study habits. Sit there with a notebook, pay attention, follow the lecture, write down the important things, and you will do better in the class. And your writing will improve. Now, to the material. Page 2, it describes writing as a process. That is the main point of today's lecture. Process writing is just a general strategy for anybody to get their writing to develop, okay? We do process writing from middle school in Canada. You may or may not have. When I was in elementary school, they just said, okay, Jeremy, what do you like? I said, I like dragons. And so here's my anecdote. Notice I'm going off topic. I like dragons. And then so my English teacher, who was also the librarian, said, well, why don't you write about dragons? And I said, all right. And then I wrote 5 pages about dragons and I gave it to her and she was like, that's fantastic. A+, and gave it back to me. That's how writing started. But as we went into middle school, they started to say, okay, you don't get to write about dragons every time. You have to write about certain issues and it's your choice. But then you got to high school and said, well, this is high school English. So in grade 9, we study Romeo and Juliet. So I want you to write something about Romeo and Juliet, right? So it narrows down. And that's why people who write when they're young usually love writing, like myself. Fell in love with writing, wanted to be a professional author, went through the whole academic English process until I finished my master's degree. And then when I finished, I didn't write for like a whole year because I was so sick of it. That's basically the point that we're at, is that there are rules. And that if you want to be good, if you want to be a good writer in any sense, that you need to understand that the rules are there to enable other people to understand what you're writing. If you're good at following the rules and other people know the rules, then the communication is more effective. So therefore, we call this step-by-step approach to composition process writing, or as I should say in Canada, process writing. So writing is a process and you do certain things. If you skip those things, you can still write well. And lots of people are very talented writers and some people are geniuses, and I'm not going to try and teach a genius how to write a best-selling novel or a beautiful poem that is internationally recognized. That's not my job. My job is to get normal people who want to make their writing more effective to upgrade their skill. That's the whole purpose of the course. So the basic thing I will underline first of all is that if you intend to get an A on a paper and there's a competitive group of people and you sit down with a topic and you sit down at the computer or with your pencil if you're old school, or on your phone or whatever the way you want to enter in the words, and you just do it without preparing anything, the chances of you getting that higher grade or being competitive with your colleagues, your classmates, your coworkers, or anybody else is very low. It's just like doing a presentation. If you want to do a good presentation, it doesn't matter how good the idea is. You can have the best idea, but if you just walk into a conference hall and there's 100 people and you have a great idea, but you didn't plan anything and you try and speak to them about the idea, it's not going to go well, right? It's going to come out wrong and you're going to be embarrassed. Okay? So this is what we're talking about. If you just sit down at 2 o'clock in the morning and try and write a paper for me, and it's your second or third language, some of you it's your third language, you're going to probably write something that is not your best work. And when you get your grade back, you shouldn't be surprised. So we're going to talk about this more in the Zoom lecture, actually, about what the process is like, because your first assignment is going to be sort of putting the blocks together for an essay. But today I want to talk about just how the choice of topic works and how you approach creating a thesis. So again, I think the brainstorming part, like coming up with ideas and fitting ideas together and everything, that's something that is a great exercise for doing in real time on Zoom. So that is what we're going to do next Friday. But today I'm just going to outline basically the main guidelines for the main requirements, really, when you want to start an essay, is that you have to do something. You have to create this statement, which we call a thesis, which the rest of your writing is built from. Is it attached to, and it functions as a control and as a predictor, and as a guide for the rest of your writing. So what's going to happen in this class is, in almost every case, actually, even on the exam, I'm going to provide you a topic, but the topic is going to be so broad that it could never fit within the length of paper I require. So we're not going to write any papers that are longer than 1,000 words, right? So you're talking about, we're going to write 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page papers at the most, short papers. And if I say, if I choose a topic like the environment, you can't talk about the environment in that space. It's literally impossible. I mean, you could talk about deforestation. You could talk about water pollution. You could talk about carbon footprints. There's all kinds of things. You could talk about trash in the ocean, and that's narrowing it down. But then you would have to go even further. You'd have to probably go, well, are we talking about water pollution in rivers, lakes, oceans, Korea, Canada, Brazil, right? And the same thing goes for those other things. What kind of trash are we talking about in the ocean? Are we talking about oil spills? Are we talking about, stuff that gets washed up on the beach? Are we talking about we talking about people dumping garbage or toxic waste like they used to do? They used to throw barrels of radioactive nuclear waste just off the coast of New Jersey and New York 50 years ago. What are we talking about here? You can't start a 4-page paper with I'm going to talk about the environment. That's the whole world. And you can talk about the environment in a positive way or a negative way, right? You can be a climate change supporter, or you can be a denier, or you can say this is the most important issue, or this one is, or actually we don't need to worry about this that much. We should focus on other things. There's all kinds of approaches, right? And that's where some students have the initial trouble, is that I'm giving you a broad topic for the very reason that everybody's probably concerned about the environment a little bit, but you get a choice of what you want to talk about. If you want to talk about heavy industry or nuclear power or windmills or water pollution, or you want to talk about your home country, or you want to talk about Korea, or you want to talk about garbage on the street, right? Or you want to talk about people eating too much meat because, you know, that causes deforestation, and if we were eating different types of food, less beef and chicken and pork primarily, then that would reduce the damage to the environment. Or you want to talk about endangered species and, you know, the disruption of ecosystems by building projects. The possibilities are endless, but you have to choose one yourself. And that's important, right? I don't know if you're going to be a journalist, you're going to be a translator, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a politician. Sometimes you won't get to choose the topic, but sometimes you will. And when you have that choice, you should have the ability to narrow it down to the point where the specific details can be explained and you can have a complete discussion of a certain topic, where at the end of it, the person has a sense that, well, this is not just a little bit of everything. This is something really important about this thing that I need to pay attention to. If you just make a list of all the environmental problems in the world, everybody's going to say, well, that's too many things. I can't do anything about that. If you choose one thing, you're much more likely to have an impact. Okay? So it's a strategy. So when you're choosing a topic, I will probably provide the general topic, a very broad topic, and you're going to have to narrow it down and be as specific as possible so that what you say can be very closely linked to your main statement, right? So what you need to do is make a claim, right? And you're going to make this claim for a certain reason. You need to provide a reason. You need to back yourself up, right? So I'll just pick a simple example here, and it's an argument. So you create the argument and you create the strength of the argument, right? So if you want to say, okay, you know, the biggest issue in Korea, despite the coronavirus, we'll stay away from that for now because that's going to get boring. But we'll just say, in terms of the environment here, the biggest issue we need to deal with is air pollution. That's been going on for a while. It's improved recently because of the economic slowdown. But since the problem is air pollution, let's decide what strategy would be a good one. Not even the best one, but what strategy are we going to use? And this is exactly what the government does, right? We're going to say, okay, nuclear power. Nuclear power is the best one. But the argument against that is, well, nuclear weapons, people are afraid of it, nuclear meltdowns. I'm totally on the pro-nuclear side, by the way. There's a lot of support in scientific evidence that if all developed countries went nuclear, there would be a huge benefit for the environment. As long as as long as we follow the safety guidelines and we do everything with the proper regulations and we don't have meltdowns. Occasionally that happens, but the benefit to having such low emissions energy for the entire world would be incredible. It would be incredible. But let's say, throw that one away. In Korea, we've got two issues. The potential for it to produce material for weapons, and nuclear treaties with North Korea and political problems. And of course, the fact that Koreans are concerned about nuclear meltdowns, especially because we had recently a meltdown in Japan. So, right, that's a topic you can approach, and you have to make a strong argument if you want that to be your environmental topic. You can choose something much more close to home, there is a place in America called Flint, Michigan, and I'm not up to date on this, but the infrastructure for water, for water access in Flint, Michigan, has been damaged and essentially undrinkable for years, and it's been in and out of the news for a while. But as far as I know, they still haven't solved this problem. That there's the pipes are damaged and the water is undrinkable, and this is in America. It's due to a variety of factors like leaks into the groundwater and stuff like that. So the people that live in that area can't drink water from their tap like we take for granted every day. So, I mean, what would they say? What would they say the most important environmental issue is? A person from Flint, Michigan would probably be writing about clean water access, right? So it's relative too. Keep in mind, you want to narrow something down, because if you talk about, again, if I switch the topic and I just say, okay, we're not going to talk about the environment, let's just talk about education. Are you talking about university education? Are you talking about continuing education, kindergarten, elementary school, special education, right? Are you talking about professional education or skill-based education? Private, public, you see all the possibilities. And again, you'd probably have to say, I'm talking about private education for high school students in Korea. Like, that might be specific enough for you to choose as a topic for a short essay. You get the idea. When you do that, you have to make a claim. So if you're going to say, we need to get rid of private education for high school students in Korea because it's unfair, because the majority of Korean students can't afford it, and then that gives them a disadvantage when they're going to university, and therefore they don't get the privileged students that go to private high school get better jobs, they go to better universities, they get connected to better opportunities, and then they get better jobs, and they make more money, and they live in better neighborhoods, and this perpetuates the wealth gap. Okay, that's sort of what I'm talking about when you're developing a claim. I'm claiming that public education is better for society than private education. That's my argument. I'm claiming that. And then throughout the rest of my paper, I have to support that with various points, opinions, statistics, examples, quotations, research, and so on. Okay? So you decide on your purpose as well. I don't think it's a good idea to write an essay and just say, I'm just writing the essay because Professor Sullivan told me to. What you want to do is say, well, I'm interested in animal rights, so I'm going to write about protecting the environment for animals and animal habitat, because that's what I'm interested in. If you're interested in cars, maybe not even saving the environment, but Tesla makes these fancy new cars that have electric batteries, and they're really sporty and fast, and they're quiet, and they have, I don't know if you've ever seen the inside of an electric car, especially a Tesla, but they do look kind of futuristic. They look cool. So if you're a person who's interested in cars, and you don't necessarily care about the environment, but you could go down that road and say, it looks like battery-powered electric cars and new technology are the cars of the future. And I'm very interested in the design and the sound and the mileage, the efficiency, and how the car is controlled, and all of these things will be better for the environment. It's not just the battery itself, it's the fact that starting and stopping and having smart drivers and stuff will reduce traffic. There's all kinds of things you could go into, and that's what I mean. A general topic allows each student to kind of focus on a subtopic or a specific interest that they're into, that piques their interests. So it's always hard to write about something that you don't really care about. So what is your purpose? Are you trying to persuade other people? Are you trying to inform people? Are you trying to attack? You're trying to criticize somebody? Or has there been a lot of negative attention about something, and you feel differently, so you feel like you should defend this position? There's all sorts of different approaches. I tend to encourage students to build up an argument and defend it in order to just sort of display how well things would go if the scenario and the argument that you present is followed through, right? But there's all kinds of other reasons. Generally, we're going to talk about argumentative essays. So you have to realize that somebody else is going to disagree with you. When you write a paper, it's just for me. But in real life, when you write, there's always going to be, criticism, backlash. Just go on the internet for 5 minutes and write something and see how many people say negative things and disagree with you. So this is a process that we're working on, to make your arguments stronger. So you need to have that ability to defend yourself. I think it's even more important to be able to support and defend yourself in the face of criticism than it is to be able to analyze and criticize somebody else. So that's we're going to do all sorts of types of essays or types of approaches as we study the essay, but primarily I want you to be able to support your own opinion well, and we'll show you how to do that. So once you've narrowed it down and you've claimed a position and you've decided this is what I'm going to insist is the point of my paper, my main argument, and you decide why you're doing that, then you write this sentence, and this sentence has to be written clearly, coherently, and concisely. It has to be short, one sentence, maybe two, and in that sentence it has to sort of have the essence of your position. The reader should be able to read that sentence and be like, okay, this is what this person is going to focus on, and I'm going to read the rest and see if they prove their point by the end that I'm convinced of their point. All right? So that's how, this is basically the plan. It's not the plan itself, but it is the arrow that points the reader in the right direction. If there's no thesis there, it's almost like, whether your hook and whether your introduction is interesting or not, if it's not clear how the argument is going to develop, then there's no reason for a person to continue reading, because an academic essay is there to provide an argument for somebody to digest, somebody to react to, and somebody to use for their own research. So it needs to be there, and if it's not there, it's a significant problem, and that's going to cost you part of your grade. So I hope you followed everything I said. I spoke quite quickly. I am referring really to only page 2 and page 3 in the textbook, which we will go over. There's no homework. Bring your textbook. Have your textbook at your desk when you log on so that you can follow what I say. And we will talk about these things. If you have any questions about this approach and how you get started, you can ask them to me. If you want to send an email and it's a good question, I might not answer the question to you by email, because I think it's if you ask a good question, then it's a good opportunity for me to answer that question in the Zoom meeting so everybody can hear the answer. So that's just the beginning. And on Friday at 10 o'clock, I expect to see all of you on your devices. Please have some sort of headset so that there's not feedback. Hopefully most of you have done Zoom already, so you've got everything figured out. But if you are just using your phone or something, certainly please use some earbuds or something so you don't have issues with speaking or listening. And I look forward to, seeing your faces as well as your student numbers and your writing. Okay? So I'm sorry for the delay, and we are playing catch up a little bit. So just sit tight. Nothing's due yet. That's all going to be resolved over the weekend and in the Zoom meeting. And then after that, it should be smooth sailing, and we won't have to worry about, trying to figure out what's what, because we will have discussed it in person. Okay? So watch this video lecture and make sure you have the textbook. You can expect the Zoom meeting invitation over the weekend, and I will see you next Friday. Have a good evening.